In the last episode, I had a chat with Cameron Crosdale Romer, Director of Marketing at Gel Blaster, and we talked about how to build brand awareness through influencers. Now, today on episode number 70, get ready, I'm chatting with Chad Masura, founder at Rosy Soil, which is the first Earth positive soil company. And we'll also be talking about how to scale Omni-Channel alongside D2C and Amazon. So, super interesting and great conversation here. Make sure to tune in. I'm your host, Raphael Paulin-Daigle, and I'm the founder of SplitBase. This is Minds of E-Commerce. Now, this episode is brought to you by SplitBase. At SplitBase, we help leading 8 and 9-figure brands such as Dr Squatch, Hyperice, and Amica grow through customer-focused conversion optimization programs. We pinpoint exactly where your store is losing money most, and then, we help you fix it. The result, you get increased conversions, higher converting landing pages, higher AOV, and of course, more money, which then allows you to scale advertising profitably. We've been at it for over a decade, and we can help you manage the full CRO process from A to Z: design, development, copywriting, strategy. So, if you need to increase the performance of your e-commerce store, go to splitbase.com today and learn how we can help you get the most out of your marketing spend. All right, Chad, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, same here. I'm super excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, now, as you know, this podcast is all about going deep, right? And dissecting one key growth strategy so our listeners can get the most value right away in the short amount of time that we've got together today. But maybe just to give some people context, before we talk about omni-channel and how to grow D2C alongside Amazon and omni-channel, maybe like a 15-second intro to the brand would be helpful to our listeners.
Sure. Yeah, I'll give a quick one. So, yeah, my name's Chad Masura. I'm the founder and CEO of Rosy Soil. We create a biochar-based super soil for houseplants, cacti, orchids, veggie starts, you name it. We kind of have a product that works better than everything out there and is much more sustainable. And yeah, super excited to chat about kind of our growth journey here, where we launched the brand in 2022. We're going full chain into Target. We've now sold hundreds of thousands of units of this stuff. And behind the scenes, the metric that I'm super proud of is we've also captured nearly 1,000 metric tons of CO2 in the
Amazing.
process. So yeah, excited to dive in.
Great. Well, okay, so let's talk about that, right? I think a lot of brands they grow and they mostly focus on D2C first. It's very sequential. There seems to be an order of things. It's D2C first, sometimes Amazon first, or after D2C has reached a certain scale, and then much later in the life of the company does retail make an appearance. Now, you guys have kind of flipped that and you got into retail super early. And everything kind of has happened in parallel and almost at the same time. So, just to, again, provide some context before we dive deep into how you guys have been doing that, uh, tell maybe our audience a bit more about like what exactly have you guys been doing?
Yeah, certainly. And I think we went into it with the same level of thinking. We launched, well, we spent about a year on the product. We built our own soil lab. We did tons of R&D behind the scenes, but the plan was always to start D2C first, to try to understand the consumer, try to hone the brand, try to nail
Mm,
the reasons to believe and all the benefits. And then also we've taken a super iterative approach to the formulation itself, because we wanted it to be the best soil in the world, and that takes serious research and iteration. So anyway, we launched the brand on a Shopify site on Earth Day 2022, and the plan was to kind of scale D2C from there. We ended up getting super, frankly, lucky, in that the Target lawn and garden buyer, when she was preparing for her line reviews, maybe two months after our D2C launch, was searching specifically for sustainable soil.
mm,
And unfortunately, traditional soil has a massive environmental footprint, and it's built around non-renewable resources and synthetic fertilizers and just a bunch of nasty stuff that's like bad for plants and the planet. And so in her effectively just Googling for sustainable soil, she stumbled upon our brand. We're we're one of the only sustainable soils out there, and just filled out our website like contact form. So
Amazing.
yeah, I mean it was
That's the luck you
probably, I
want to
think it was
have
about,
right off the bat, huh?
I know. Yeah, I know. And I mean, thank goodness the email like didn't go to spam or something. I almost fell out of my chair when we got the email. And so anyway, she brought us in. We did a full kind of line review. We kind of shared our vision for the brand and where we thought it was going to go. And she took a total kind of chance on us and committed to a 200 store shelf test for, and this was the funny part, January 2024. So
Great
it
timing.
gave us, I know, right? And I mean that's just how these larger organizations move. They're working on year to 2 year timelines. And so one, that gave us a lot of time to like prepare for the supply chain for handling that. But two, it meant, basically from the inception of the brand, we knew it had to be sort of target retail
Mm,
ready, and we could kind of design some of the fundamentals around that plan and timeline. And so it changed the way that we approached kind of our go-to-market and scaling, and also like gave us this sort of 18-month kind of hard deadline to get the products and the brand ready for target.
mm.
And so, it wasn't in the plan. I don't think you could plan for something like that, but it was super lucky and fortunate. And I think it shifted the way that we approached building Rosie.
So in hindsight, I'm curious, right? Like your in into Target was potentially a bit of luck, but also I would say it goes beyond luck. I think in a way you were at the crossroads of there was a market opportunity and you guys were the right solution at the time. So, that's how you got found. But I'm curious. Obviously that led to you guys planning differently from that point on. Now, imagine that Target never would have reached out, right? In hindsight, would you have waited to try to get more of that retail distribution? Would you have, kind of gone for it, tried to find, buyers very early on?
Yeah, it's a good question. Um, I think in hindsight, as I learned more about the category, it became pretty obvious that for soil specifically, one, it has lower e-commerce penetration than other categories do. Like it is still very much a go into
Mm,
a store and buy it category. Um, and also, I would say the incumbent soil brands, partially because of that, partially because of the economics of shipping a heavy product, and partially because, there a lot of these brands are just more old school, have kind of missed the e-commerce train.
mm,
And so I think, yeah, I think part of me would have probably seen e-commerce as the flank around some of the bigger brands.
mm.
But then also, I think I started a total novice in this category. Now that I know more about the category, I think we would have built a retail go-to-market. Probably just not as fast as we did, given
Right.
the kind of target wonderful surprise.
What would you say has been kind of the biggest challenge in going through all of these channels in parallel from the early days?
I mean, there's so many. Try to pick one. I think focus is challenging, right? Like you are trying to ride a couple bicycles at the same time, and it's hard to do each of them super well, and you kind of have to let some fires burn and accept that you're going to do some things well and some things not so well. Um, I think a recent challenge has been maintaining it's called map pricing or MSRP, but basically, because you're being sold across a number of channels, you want to show up at the same level of quality and the same ideally price
Yeah.
point across those channels. And that's a little hard dealing with a bunch of different, partners doing their own
Right.
thing. And then so I would say those are two that come to mind, but actually the thing that we're constantly playing with and iterating, and I think this is probably something that D2C brands in general wait a little too long on, is how important front of pack
Hmm.
is and will always be. Kind of old school CPG sort of strategy is price, packaging, and placement. or price, product, and placement, but a lot of that, at least for trial, is packaging. And I think it's really important, especially if you're going to, start with a big launch with a national retailer. Like, you should be pretty confident that you have the right combination of those three things. And it takes serious trial and error. And I still don't think we have it perfect. So that will be a forever, I think, challenge with certainly a retail brand, but I think even more so on omni brand, because like that trifecta has to work on Amazon, on D2C, at Target, at all of our wonderful independent retailers. And it's kind of like a spider web. You pull on one thing and something's wrong somewhere else.
And Chad, maybe I missed it, and you mentioned it, but Amazon. When in the life of the company did it launch?
I I was dumb and I dragged my feet on Amazon for way too long. I was more concerned about channel conflict than I probably should
Mm.
have been. And also just resources, like it's expensive to launch on Amazon. It's pretty pay to play at this point. But yeah, so to answer your question, like I said, we launched the brand April 2022. We didn't launch Amazon until December 2023, and it took off like a rocket ship. So I definitely wish that we had done it sooner. Um, but we did it when we did it, and now it's, a massive, massive channel for us.
Amazing. I'm curious, like, if you had to do this all over again, you'd build a different brand. Like, timing wise, strategy wise, is there anything you would do differently when it comes to when you'd be trying to get into each of those different channels or how you're approaching it?
Oh, yeah, I mean, definitely I would have done Amazon sooner. I think also because we knew Target was coming and it was sort of this impending
Mm.
deadline, we actually ended up putting less energy into our D2C for a while. I didn't end up hiring a full-time D2C person until last year. And now that she's gotten under the hood, she's like doubled our conversion rate, and like that channel is really growing. But it was kind of like I said, because of that focus thing. Like I think we neglected D2C a little more than we should have, and I think it's a wonderful complement to the rest of the channels. So yeah, I think launching Amazon sooner and giving D2C a little more love early days probably would have helped grow this thing a little faster. Although it's been pretty fast, so I can't say I have too many regrets.
I do think it's pretty fast too. I was surprised when he said, "Oh, it's just a year later." At the end of the day, and you thought it was slow, but I think that's a testament to you guys executing fast and actually having the success that you have today. What I'm curious about is when it comes specifically to D2C, right? How much have you been able to kind of, like you said, there's always challenges with making sure every channel is in sync, but how much has the retail presence helped D2C? Very often we see the opposite, right? Brands start with the D2C and the D2C helps the retail presence. But in your case, it was flipped. So, how is that playing out in strategy wise? And how does that change how you do marketing today?
Yeah, it totally flips top of funnel. It's really fascinating. I think for all of 2024, our biggest awareness channel was Target, was being on
Mm.
shelf at Target. And what we found is people would go into Target, they'd discover our brand, and they'd kind of verify, like they'd look us up on Amazon or they'd look us up on our website and check reviews and make sure we were legit and try to learn more about the brand and all of that stuff. So I think Target ended up having kind of an overflow effect across channels. I would say this year, because Amazon's grown so quickly, it's actually, I would say Amazon is probably the biggest top of funnel channel for us. And it also has that overflow to D2C. We find a lot of people discover it on Amazon, maybe buy it the first time on Amazon, and then come to D2C to buy our bundles or buy in
Mm.
bulk or kind of, I would say more of the super fans come to the D2C site because they want to support the brand or, we have free shipping at a certain tier or so. I think, both of those actually complement each other really well. And then I would say the retail presence um, legitimizes all of it. So again, it's hard to do the Omni thing well, but you can really feel it work once you start to get it working. The other nice thing is, we'll have a down D2C month and then an up Amazon month, and
Mm.
everything is still looking, up and to the right. And that I think brings a little bit of pressure off, having those stressful weekly revenue reviews on any given channel. Because like one's doing better, another one's kind of falling behind, and the net is we're still doing super well.
That's super interesting. And I kind of want to go back to your Amazon launch and you saying that you wish you would have done it sooner, right? I talk with e-commerce brands every day, and there are still a lot of very major brands that aren't on Amazon. And often,
Mhm.
right, there's a fear of Amazon potentially cannibalizing their D2C business, and then you don't really own the
Mhm.
customer, right? Um, what would you say to that? And especially like a brand that's starting out, that's trying to, really make their name, they feel like having a bit more control on their products is kind of the way to go. But on the flip side, today, you're still saying you wish you would have done it sooner.
Yeah. And for all those reasons, right? I mean, that's why I dragged my feet, because I was it's Amazon scary
Yeah.
for a number of reasons. Um, but I think now that we've really scaled up that channel, there's just a ton of demand for our category, for basically all categories, that's happening on Amazon that isn't necessarily happening elsewhere. So I think there's a whole cohort of shoppers that just start their journey in Amazon, and if you're not there, you're just missing that demand. It's not like they're doing an in tandem Google search that you can hit them with. So um, I think you're definitely missing out on customers by not being there. I think also Amazon, when done right, is tons of new to brand purchases. For sort of that reason, but also
Mm,
because really strategic. You can be really strategic about search terms. You can do kind of category campaigns. You can do some conquesting. Like you can really introduce people to the brand. I think at this point pretty well on Amazon. And then like I said, I found that there's total kind of overflow and carryover to the other channels. So, will Amazon be lower margin than D2C? Yes, probably. And do you have less control over your customer base? For sure. But I think at the same time, you're probably missing out on an opportunity to really, one, scale the business, but also truthfully like scale D2C by not being there.
mm,
I mean, that's my personal opinion. I think each
yeah.
brand is different, each category is different, but that's definitely proven true for us.
I'm curious here, is there a strategy or like a conscious decision? I'm trying to find a word here to really bring people from Amazon, a deliberate strategy to bring people from Amazon to the D2C or from retail to D2C, or do you kind of let those channels live in their own bubbles, and if customers cross pollinate over, then great.
Yeah, I think we could do better at this, but part of it is just brand. I think trying to build a really emotionally resonant and recognizable brand and packaging system, I think helps a ton. So they start to recognize it on the other channels. Um, The other small thing we've done is we put our phone number on every bag. We kind of stole that from the I'm gonna mispronounce the brand, but Taika crew. Um, and we say like, do you have any plant questions or soil questions? Like text us. And so hopefully that's
Mm,
bringing more people into our ecosystem that we can then have a one-to-one relationship and upsell. But it's a great question. I think there's a lot more to be done there across, Amazon. People get creative with inserts and rebate programs and
yeah.
that sort of stuff. So we haven't quite gone down that path, but I think there's tons more to explore. Um, but at the end of the day, I kind of learned this at my last company. I was head of growth for a omni-channel food business, and we really dug into the numbers, and we found that the customers that had transacted across two or more channels had a meaningfully larger LTV. And
Mm,
so that encouraged us to just like double down and
so interesting.
not necessarily treat them as silos, but understand that kind of like the rising tide kind of raises all ships. And so
Yep.
it, I think I think the instinct was to actually fight against people being omnichannel and try and, keep them on D2C. But if that pattern holds true at Rosie, and I think it definitely does, like I think the customers that are buying, they need it tomorrow, they're going to go to, or they need it today, they're going to go to a store. They need it
Yep.
tomorrow, they're going to go to Amazon. They need it
Yep.
next week in bulk, they're going to go to our D2C. Like I think actually those customers probably look like our best customers, and we should
Yep.
encourage that behavior.
Amazing. So we've been talking to Chad Masura, founder at Rosy Soil. Now, Chad, if people want to learn more about you, about the brand, where should they go?
Yeah, check us out. So the website's rosysoil.com. Our Instagram is just at Rosy Soil. We have a ton of fun on there. And check, as we were talking today, you can grab us on Amazon, you can grab us at Target, you can grab us on, we're in about 1,000 independent garden centers across the country, which we didn't even really talk about, but is a whole other piece of our growth strategy. So there's a store locator on our website, and you can find a really cool local plant shop there as well. Um, and yeah, if you need help with your houseplants or your cacti, or you just got an orchid as a gift, like we got you. We make the best soil on the planet.
Amazing. Chad, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate the time.